Well, it's 7 o'clock on a Tuesday night, and where else would I be but here with you? DJ Stutz here with Little Hearts Academy USA and Imperfect Heroes podcast. And before we get started, I just wanted to share real quickly that we are now posting videos of our podcast on YouTube and on Rumble. And so on YouTube, it is Little Hearts Academy USA. That's the channel. And if you uh, follow us there, you'll get the notifications when a new episode is up. And same thing on Rumble, only the name of the channel is Imperfect Heroes. So Little Hearts Academy USA, Imperfect Heroes Rumble. And you'll be able to see us. I'll be posting a new episode tomorrow on both of those. So, yahoo! Anyway, hey, Nephi, it's go. Good to see you. And so, if you're interested, check out Rumble, check out YouTube, and we're just expanding and reaching more people that way. So, today's topic is bullying. We hear so much about it. It's like, okay, enough, right? And yet, we worry about our kids being a victim of all of that. But at the same time, we're talking about how that affects us when your child is the victim, right? But also, what if it's your child that's the bully? Nobody wants to admit it or consider it that their child would be a bully. And so it's kind of hard dealing with parents. But with all the bullying going on, someone's got to be doing it, right? And the reality is that every child in the right circumstances will be a bully at some level and at some point. So it could be maybe they're sick, they're tired, they're feeling insignificant or invisible. It, it can be that maybe there's some things going on at home and you don't think they realize what's going on, but guess what? They do. And so they might be stressed out and upset. And so it could be too that maybe they're lashing back at somebody who's been irritating them, for a few weeks, because that never happens, right? So when your child is in a situation and they're the one that's been maybe a little inappropriate, what can we do? Well, my guest in this week's podcast is Dr. Kate Lund. She's amazing. And she actually has a TED Talk out there. And it's really a good one. And the link is in my show notes of the podcast. So go there and you'll see it. And then also, she went through a lot of bullying as a child. So she was born with hydrocephalus. And so if you don't know, that's where the brain isn't processing the water or whatever. She explains it really well in our episode. But so she had to wear a helmet if she went outside to play on the day she got to go outside to play. You can just imagine how that was. And she had a funny haircut and because of all the work that they were doing on her head. And so she grew up with feeling left out and realizing that it was very obvious that she was different and didn't fit in. And, a lot of kids just couldn't help themselves and had to make fun of the helmet girl, right? But she also talks about how having those experiences made her very resilient growing up. And so now she is amazing. She has twin kids and she's got an amazing husband and they all work together and she's reaching out to help us understand how resilience is so important and how to make our kids resilient. We have so many adults out there who are not resilient, who, oh, I've got to leave work or I can't go in because somebody offended me. I mean, we see adults all the time now on the news doing crazy things because they are not resilient. And so we want to make sure that as we're raising our kids, we want to give them those opportunities and that strength and that support to help them to be resilient adults as well as kids growing up. And so one of the things we talked about was how parents and teachers can be more aware of the bullying that's happening in the neighborhood, in the classroom, and what's going on there. And it's really interesting when you see a child that is um, behaving abnormally for them. So if you have a kiddo that's normally, very social and happy and whatever, and then all of a sudden you see that they are sullen and not happy, or maybe they're extra quiet and just pulled in to themselves, you might want to have a conversation with that kiddo. But it's not going to happen. They're not going to share with you unless you've established a relationship where they understand that they are accepted and loved and safe. And so we have to build that relationship so that they feel free to be able to talk to you about what's going on. We're going to be listening in on maybe some of the conversations that they're having when the friends are over, and they say, oh, Joey, he's such a twerp, or whatever they're saying. But when they talk negatively about a kid who's not in their presence, and so then you might want to start asking some questions. It could be that they're using that negative comments because they're kind of in a bullying mode. We're going to tease him, or yeah, he's stupid, or they're justifying not treating this child kindly. Or it could be that they're saying those things because that child is bullying them. And so you want to start asking some questions when you start hearing that, and include the friends in there and tell me more about Joey and what's going on, and ask those kinds of questions and help them to feel safer, right? I have a comment here. I'm just checking. Wow, this is great from Nephi. He says that both of his kids are severe autistic, and his son is on the high end of severe autism. He is very loving in his severe special needs class at school, and the kids would hang around him because they were more comfortable with him than with other kids. And one was more comfortable hanging with him than any of the special needs kids. Even the normal kids, typical kids, yep, felt safe with him and looked forward to being with him. And, that can be the case so often. I will tell you that when my kids were in high school many moons ago in Las Vegas, then my two oldest went to a high school called Cheyenne High School. Not a great reputation, a little wild, but um, I remember that the special needs kids were a lot of fun, and the kids interacted with them and had fun with them and talked to them, and I can't remember if it was when Candace or Shiloh was in there, but they voted in a special needs kid for homecoming queen, and she was so excited, and it was wonderful, and everybody felt great about it. I can tell you that my youngest daughter, Noelle, went to um, Columbine High School, the Columbine High School in Colorado. And whoops, hang on. Thank you. My dog just came in. Anyway, but and they had a tradition that homecoming king and queen were from the special needs group, and it wasn't even something that came out officially. It wasn't something that they pushed. It's just something the kids did on their own, and it just became this tradition. And then prom was more for the typical kids, but they made sure that the special needs kids were really included and part of things. And so there are so many opportunities for us to learn about our humanity and to learn about all that everyone has to offer. Everybody has something to offer, and to grow and to learn with. And so I hope that we'll consider that and pay attention to that, that uh, our kids are engaging with that and making sure that everybody feels safe around them. One of the things that Dr. Lund and I talked about is how to help our children understand how to manage bullying, both if they are the focus of the bullying, if there's another child that's the focus of the bullying, or if they notice if there's a child that's crying after you said something to them, that's a sign that maybe you need to reconsider what you said and reach out to that kid. A lot of kids don't understand when they're being mean, especially when they're really young, because they just say it as they see it, right? And they don't understand how some kids might take offense or have hurt feelings because of what you said. And so we're going to teach them to look for signs in people, body language. And you can practice this. You know, I'm always pushing for those family nights or whatever you want to call them, but I suggest at least once a week. And one of the things that I love doing with them, and one of the purposes, is to let them have a chance to role play and to role play different scenarios. How to react if someone takes your toy. A child could look at that as bullying, even if it's not bullying, right? They just took a toy. That's not bullying. And so they can learn to manage those things with practice. And when you practice those things as a family, when it's evening and everyone's calmed down, chores are done, everyone's happy, right? And we're engaging with one another, you can give them that opportunity to, as they practice more and more, they're going to be more skilled in managing those situations as they come. Well, what can you do when you have these bad feelings, or you're angry, or you're hurt, or you're tired, and you just kind of lash out? What if your best friend is saying mean things about another kid? How do you handle that? And you can practice that. And so that's something to really be aware of. And then what do parents do when you get information that it's your child that's behaved inappropriately? Well, as a kindergarten teacher, and I worked mostly in very low income, high crime areas. I ended my last 2 years, I did at a typical school. But bullying happens, it doesn't matter what socioeconomic area you live in. And sometimes the very wealthy schools have the worst bullying. It may not be as physical, but it is very emotional in how that's managed. And in fact, I remember that I had a dear friend when we were living in Las Vegas, and he was actually a dean at one of the hoity-toity private schools, and it was one of the top ones, right? And he didn't send his kids there, and he could have, and they could have had the benefit, I guess, of that private education. Well, I asked him, why don't you send your kids? That's a great school. And he goes, oh, no, 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 not my kids. Because the kids that went there were so entitled and had so many expectations of not having to do anything but be there, right? And parents who covered for them because they didn't want to deal with having to actually manage bad behavior. And so they made excuses all over the place for these kids instead of helping them manage through. So it happens everywhere, is my point. And oftentimes I would get, when I'd have to talk to a parent about a situation that happened, um, you would get either the parent that was, no, they're picking on my child and my child's the victim and da 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 da, right? And wouldn't even hear that your child actually stabbed another child. And or it could go from there. That was the extreme. I can't, that episode just kind of is burned in my head. But um, they stand and say, nope, nope, not my kid. Mm-mm. My kid was just defending themselves, or you're not watching closely enough, or whatever. Okay, fine. Then there was a parent that would, um, my kid's always in trouble. Why is he so mean? He's just a monster. I don't understand. His brother never gave me any trouble. And so then they're mad at the kid, right? But neither one of those responses is actually looking at the kid and trying to figure out what is going on, right? Why is my child acting like this? And I need to ask some different questions. And even if it's out of character for your child, realize that things happen. Everybody has a bad day. Are you always being kind in the words you say? Are you always, handling things appropriately when you're hungry, tired, stressed, depressed, sad, scared? All of those things will play into it. And so what you want to do if you do get a call from the school that it's your child, you want to hear your child's side, but realize it's going to be very one-sided. Your child doesn't want to be in trouble, right? And so we want to make sure that we are assuring them that we want to understand so we can help you to find a better way to manage this. And so, what's going on? And again, you're going to have built that relationship to the point where a child feels safe talking to you and sharing with you, right? Right. So anyway, I want you to be able to think about bullying. I want you to go listen to the podcast. It's great. And it's called Bullying Not on My Watch. And it's Dr. Kate Lund. And I just love her. You can see that she has a unique processing way of managing things. And that is so engaging for me. Someone who has overcome huge hurdles. And not only that, but gone on to get her doctorate in psychology. And it's just super cool. She actually has specialized training in medical psychology. And so she uses those strength and evidence-based approaches to help parents and kids thrive, and particularly in sports. So how do they manage all of the emotions and all of the things that go on with that, and self-esteem and all of that? She's really good. So go listen to it. And then be sure to check in with us next week. And I'm just pulling up actually what next week. Yeah, ooh, next week is really good. So it's going to be episode 99. Can you believe we're getting that close to 100? And her name is Pam Luck, and she has designed an active sportswear line for plus size kids so that they have clothes that actually fit them. So that you've got a kid that might be a little chunkier and they're wearing clothes that are, big enough to go around them, but then they're way too long, or the arms are too big. And so she's got this whole thing, and we're talking about body image and what's really important with our kids when we're talking about um, physicality, being physically fit and emotionally okay with who you are. So I hope you listen in to us next time. And until next week, let's find joy in parenting. Bye, guys. See you. Thanks for coming.